Welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast, where we talk to C-level leaders from across the payments landscape. We'll be discussing the products and services that impact the payment space today, as well as trends and predictions for the future of payments. We will also hear stories from our guests about their journeys to the top.
I would say one of the first is to be humble. I firmly believe you never truly arrive, that we're always learning, that we are on a journey. We have to own our mistakes. We have to share our learnings. And I liken to say that we all have a personal toolkit.
That was Laura Miller, president of JPMorgan Merchant Services. She's our special guest on this episode 26, as we continue to celebrate Women Leaders in Payments Month, sponsored by PaySafe. I'm your host, Greg Myers, and in this episode, I talk with Laura about her journey to JPMorgan Chase, her passion and empathy for small businesses, and some of her eye-opening moments, including 9/11 and Hurricane Sandy. She provides some great insights around being humble, the idea that you never really arrive, living your personal brand, and being the person that people want to work for, with, and around. We've got a great episode today, so let's get started. Hi, Laura. Thank you for being here and welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast. And more specifically, thank you for participating during Women Leaders in Payments Month.
Thank you, Greg. It's great to be here.
So first, tell our audience about your role today, and then we'll rewind and talk a little bit about the journey and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So to start, I'm responsible for managing our strategic and complex clients globally for the merchant services business at JPMorgan Chase. And essentially from inception or business development through relationship management with all of our clients and prospects across merchant services and the broader wholesale payments, I tell you that the buck stops here. And I get to work uniquely with our product and our technology partners to be able to create great solutions for our clients.
Great. Thank you for that. Let's go back now and talk about where you grew up and what your life was like when you were growing up.
Well, that's a fun question. I live in New York now, but I grew up in Arizona and I was an only child. And as an only child, my parents were a huge influence on my life and I was pretty much always around adults. And I think that gave me an acumen to be able to, connect at a young age with adults and understand different perspectives. And I also had a unique experience growing up because my parents actually both met in the UK. My dad's from Iowa, my mom from Hong Kong. And so I grew up in a very diverse home with different perspectives from very well-traveled parents. And as a young child up through, my high school and college years, we took vacation every year as a family. And I was very fortunate to visit many places before graduating high school and college, not only in the US, but internationally. And I believe that exposure really just gave me a unique perspective on the world, on people. And that, in combination with connecting with adults, helped me to really understand how to communicate and connect on all levels with people from all walks of life.
Great. And where did you go to college?
University of Arizona in Tucson.
Okay. And you got a degree in?
Marketing, believe it or not. A BSBA with a major in marketing.
Great. So when you were growing up, do you think you were more of the lemonade stand builder or the planner organizer of the Friday night out with your friends?
That's a great question and a fun question because I absolutely was much more the planner and the organizer. And probably because execution, I'm going to say quote unquote per se, it just comes easier to me more naturally and more intuitively. I've always had ideas. I love to brainstorm and think about new ways to do things. And I'm constantly looking around for ways to do things better. But I also can see the multiple execution paths on how to make that lemonade stand happen. So that's naturally where I think most people don't like to spend their time. And so I would gravitate to because I could intuitively get there and also be willing to roll up my sleeves to make it happen.
Great. And what was your very first job? Do you remember?
Well, babysitting, of course. But beyond that, actually, I worked in a frozen yogurt shop in one of the strip malls. And to share with you, the timing of that was in the late 80s, early 90s. And that was the new thing back in the day. For those who are listening that are much younger, frozen yogurt or froyo now was very much the place to be and the place to work to see all the kids and all the families.
Any lessons learned from that first job?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think a few lessons learned. One, being a teenager, working in a shop with individuals that came in, and with the yogurt shop that would be open not just Monday through Friday, but Friday and Saturday nights and on holidays and places to go. It was the first job early on where I actually did work like Thanksgiving or some holidays that we happened to be open. And it really gave me kind of that work ethic that more and more businesses are not just about 9 to 5. And so that was a big aha moment for me at a very young age that, I might not always be able to, I might have to leave early for Thanksgiving dinner or whatever it might be I was trying to do, or celebrate a party on Friday night with my friends, that the job really became first and foremost when you made a commitment. So having the commitment, fulfilling it often had things that impacted your personal life. And that was just part of working in the job. I think the other thing that I learned from it was the importance of developing relationships with your colleagues and coworkers. Because as a girl in high school, if I wanted to go out or got invited on a date or a Friday night, I may want to switch shifts so that I could go do that. So that was another important thing. So number one, understanding the work ethic and what it meant to have a commitment to your shifts. And secondly, great partnerships with your colleagues and your boss so that you could have flexibility when you needed it.
Yeah, both of those are good even to have today, right?
Yes.
So if I'm not mistaken, your career in payments started at Amex in the commercial card area. What got you into payments? Was there something intriguing about it, or what was that journey like?
I will say I probably pretty much fell into it. And when I first started with American Express, I don't even think I really understood I was in payments. So much more as today is it's an industry and there's entire networks and organizations around it that are even that much more established. I know, and I'm aware some of that stuff existed back then, but I started out in the operating centers. And so I was leading client support and field support teams, back office, phone centers. And I became literally, I would say, educated from the customer point of view. And that was a really unique place to start. And then you start to realize with card, I would call a couple aha moments. So one, cards were powering movement and travel, right? When you think about commercial cards and T&E cards, and the ability it enabled customers to not only quickly book travel, but the reporting and information that went back to the companies. And then secondly, that was about the time the purchasing cards were really launching with not only American Express, but other providers, and how purchasing card made it easier and faster and cheaper for companies to pay vendors, and the data and information that went along with it. And also at the end of the day, you begin to understand the risk profiles with how, the value of payments and really reducing risk for the end merchant was huge. And so, a couple of aha moments for me early on that I thought were interesting. And the second one was 9/11. I was in the operating center when 9/11 happened in Arizona. And so it was about 6:30 in the morning, and I was an early bird. And so I was in the office, and I remember coming into work that day, and people on the floor were crying and were reaching out and, asking questions. And I realized that people were reaching out and asking about their employees, if they could locate them by where their last card transaction was, and spouses, et cetera, and had they used their cards anywhere, and what could we do to enable people who might be stranded. And you started to realize, like, one of the biggest ahas for me was, wow, not only the data and information, the power behind it, but we could actually help people with this. And so a couple of aha moments there, Greg, to share with you.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I mean, 9/11 really changed the world, but people don't often think about those types of things and how everyone sort of pitched in to help in any way they could. So that's a really interesting story. So you went from Amex over to Chase, where you are today. Did you start at Chase running the Business Inc. card, or was there another position before that?
No, I actually came into Chase to lead the commercial card, the middle market business. And so I came into the commercial card business and had, an opportunity to design a rewards card for businesses. And it was a very, very exciting time because for me, it was a bit of a career transformation. I'd been with American Express, an amazing company, for 11 years. And as I transitioned to Chase, it was also at the time, when we were in a recession. And it was a shifting moment for me because one, it was an opportunity to work for, JPMorgan Chase, right? And that's what you think about from the external side. And during a recession where obviously I had a good career and a solid standing with my previous employer, I looked around at the landscape and thought, well, if there's any financial institution I would work for, it would be JPMorgan Chase. And so once I had crossed that hurdle mentally, it was also about a professional change? And could I transcend and be successful at another company, continuing to live the values I live and be the leader I want to be, and really come in with very little network? I had some network, but very little network, and be able to build partnerships, relationships to be able, at the end of the day, to deliver for the customers of JPMorgan Chase. And so that was why it was a very impactful shift for me, both personally and professionally, to be able to come in and, build a product for an organization and build relationships, and almost like a new career.
Right. And then you started managing the whole ink card business, and that was mostly targeting, I'd say, small to mid-sized businesses. So what was it like sort of working with those small businesses? What did you find interesting or learn from that experience?
Yeah. So being able to lead the ink business and move into what I would call the small business foray was probably one of the most humbling, invigorating, and inspiring experiences for me. So I, in my career here, have had the honor of supporting small businesses directly for almost 4 years. So I started the ink business and eventually did small business on the merchant side as well. And when you look at the small business space, the SMB have historically represented almost half of the US GDP and the majority of the job growth over the last 10 years, let's say pre-COVID at this point. And it's a chance to have visibility, to experience and hear and talk from what I would almost call the businesses and the employees that become the heartbeat of America and the heartbeat of our economy. And you get to experience firsthand when you're out with these small businesses, the work that goes into creating, building, growing. And I also say surviving, because whether, times are good or times are tough, for a small business, they are constantly competing and surviving. And it's really inspirational when you get to be a part of that journey. And I would say both professionally and personally, because the experience that you see, the tenacity and the commitment that these small business owners have to their employees and to their passion or purpose is something that, you hope that we can recreate that entrepreneurial spirit, that passion in the jobs and in employees that we have now, even in a large company. And so I share that it was both personal and professional growth, not only for the people that I lead today in my role and beyond, but also just as a colleague and somebody in the community that can support small businesses, both personally and professionally.
Right. The word that just kind of comes up for me is resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really, especially going through what these small businesses are going through today. So, well, that brings us to today. And obviously, you've been very successful throughout your career. What are some of your guiding principles?
So I have a few, and some of them are, as an individual, and some of them are as a leader. And of course, they cross over heavily. But I would say one of the first is to be humble. I firmly believe you never truly arrive, that we're always learning, that we are on a journey. We have to own our mistakes. We have to share our learnings. And I liken to say that we all have a personal toolkit. It's what makes us who we are today from all the experiences we've had before. Those experiences and learnings come from either just absolutely being in the middle of it, from watching something, from hearing from somebody, from having a mentor, from being a part of something. And you never arrive. You're always learning as you have ideas and learnings from others and yourself. Add it to your personal toolkit. Carry that with you forth so that the next challenge that you have, you're even much better facing that challenge, overcoming that challenge, and or helping others through it. So be humble, number one. 2, live your brand. I think that people are remiss if they don't believe that they have a brand. And that brand is a footprint that they leave after, and it could be just a conversation. It could be a project. It could be a party, a social engagement. It could be, a leadership lifetime with a company. But you have a brand and you have to own that brand. You have to build it and you have to live it. And that's what will carry you through with your clients, people. I even say family and partners. When the going gets tough, can I rely on this person? What's their brand to help us get through and do the right thing and make the right choices and make the tough choices? So live your brand. Another guiding principle for me is, I would say, having what I call pure accountability. You own doing your best for others and yourself. We own how our actions affect others around us, and we own making every interaction and opportunity better because we were a part of it. Now, often, like I said in the beginning, be humble on your mistakes. Sometimes that interaction doesn't go well. And sometimes we look back and could have handled it better. It's okay to say that. It's okay to own that, gosh, I didn't get that right the first time, and apologize and say, I want to do that better. And it's okay to try to redo something and work through it another time. But the key is you want to make sure that you have pure ownership for what you can do, what you can do better, and how you impact others. And then another, what I would call guiding principle, is be the person people want to work for, with, and around. You can be the most brilliant person in the room. You can be the best person at executing. But if you're part of a team and you have to work together, and, many things that we do, rarely is it just us on our own. So the more that you can be the person that people want to work with, for, and around, the more successful you'll be, and the more people that you'll have cheering you on. And again, like I said, when the going gets tough, the more people that will be there to hold your hand and help you through it.
Yeah.
And then I'll add one more thing as a leader, because I think this is important. As a leader, I really feel that the pyramid is upside down. And leadership is a serious responsibility. And it's not easy. And we really should do it because we want to do it. I know some people go into it because they have to do it. But as quickly as you can shift to wanting to do it, to embracing it, we have such a big responsibility. Most people spend more time at work with their coworkers than they do at home. And our responsibility is to enable people to be the best that they can be, remove the barriers that they have. We work to help them do their jobs better so that the company and our clients and all of us can do better and deliver on the goals that we have set forth. So I share that because I think leadership it's a really tough job, and it's a really serious job. And the other thing from a leader perspective is you want people to be successful, grow, develop, hire people that are better than you, hire people that can go further, help them succeed, and bring others along with you on that journey.
Great. Yeah, those are very powerful and insightful guiding principles. I really appreciate you sharing those. I think like most people, you've probably had a few eye-opening moments in your career. Maybe could you talk about a few of those?
Sure. So, we all have transformational moments, and they really form how we do things in the future and other experiences. And I would say when I was in my 20s, I had to execute on a reduction in force, layoff, whatever you want to call it. And I remember it was, a group of employees that the jobs were just being automated. They truly were going away. And I had an amazing leader who helped me think through the responsibility of that, and that it wasn't just a task to let people know that they weren't going to have a role anymore. It was a responsibility to make sure that we had all the tools and support around them to help make them successful. If that meant finding another job at the firm, if that meant helping them to move on to the next, goal in their life. And I worked really, really hard to not only, practice and personally communicate and take accountability for it, but my leader helped show me what it was like to make a difference, calling all the people she knew, holding job fairs, helping people with their resume building, all the things now that are probably more systematic in large corporations, but back then may not have been. And at the end of the day, I remember it impactfully because I was able to, for 85% of the employees, find them a new role. And the other 15% actually retired. And they were very excited about being able to retire. And so I felt really accomplished because we walked out of that with many people in a much better position. And I know not all of them are that aspirational to happen, but it really was a moment for me to understand the responsibility around when you have to make these tough decisions, how end to end you have to think about your employees, your people, your customers, and the impacts that it has on the organization, and the compassion for people. That's super important. I touched on 9/11 before when we were talking about working through the card information and helping people that were impacted by that and helping clients and customers. That was another piece that was very impactful. And then also Sandy, when Hurricane Sandy happened and what we had to do for employees, for customers, for our people on the ground, for family, and seeing the super impacts. And I was living in New York City at the time. And I remember it was like it was in the fall, obviously. And we had so many people that were living in downtown, so many friends. And I literally had every night, probably 7 to 10 people in my apartment because I still had power and access to water and everything. And it was just opening your home and heart to people and employees and helping have compassion. And so I think those were eye-opening moments in my career because that transcended not only what you had to execute and do at work for your day job, but how real life impacts employees and how, as much as you would like to separate it, they're very, very fluid. And I think we're experiencing that right now, right? With COVID, and whether it's people work from home, people personally impacted, the challenges that all come with, and how, yes, we do have a job to get done, but there's a way to do it with compassion, with realistic expectations, and support and accountability for employees. And at the end of the day, for the job that we have to do for our customers and our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's pivot just a little bit and let's talk specifically about women leaders and specifically in the payments industry. What letter grade would you give us as an industry and why?
So I really, as I think about this, I think if I were to do a grade, an A to an F grade, I would give us a C+. And the reason I give us a C+ is I give us a plus because we are making progress. And I think we as an industry really aspire to have an A here, but we still have a ways to go. I believe there's two shifts in why that's happening. Number one, I do believe we have more women in payments. We have organizations like WNET and others that are really focused on helping grow women through the ranks and help them with the support and knowledge to be successful in the industry. But this industry is also going highly technical. And as it grows highly technical, we want to make sure that we also support women in technology. And I think that is an opportunity that's converging at the same time with what we're thinking about as women in payments. And so we need to support not only women in the core payments business, but in tech. And I do believe in many cases we've done a great job in certain sectors and in certain jobs and roles, but end to end, I think we have much more to do.
Okay. What do you think we need to be doing and what do we need to be doing differently?
So one is the industry itself is complex. It's technical. The payments industry is the technology, and the pace of change is happening so quickly and so significantly. And in this space, experience of relationships are very, very meaningful. So it's our job, all of us, to how do we recruit, nurture, and build the future female, and I will also extend that to diverse talent, because we have an accountability, as I talked about in the earlier discussions and questions, we have an accountability to be, if we want to be the best, not only as a company or as an industry, the most diverse talent that we can have and the most diverse employees in thought and way of life and race, color, creed, and every aspect you can think of, will generate the best ideas, will help us represent the customers and communities that we're all supporting. And at the end of the day, help us be much more innovative in creating products and solutions that meet the needs of the consumers and the businesses in the future. And so in order to do that, we have to literally recruit from the ground up, and from entry-level positions up is recruit women and diverse talent and nurture them through the payments journey. Like I said, it's technical, it's complex, and help sustain their growth and knowledge build through this process.
When do you think we can get there?
Well, that's a really good question, Greg, because I think it will depend on the speed with which we are willing to recruit and hire. But I think if you look at the cycle of knowledge and change, if we really aggressively double down in the next year, there isn't a reason that in 5 years our landscape can't look dramatically different, because we can recruit employees, help train them, move them through different walks of life in the industry, different aspects of the payments industry. And I think we can make significant inroads in 3 to 5 years. I think we can start immediately in our lower ranks. And I think as we begin to promote those individuals and give them the experience, I think we can continue and make significant impacts even in the leadership ranks in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. I always like to ask this question because I truly believe in trying to, educate people about this industry. And I was like you, I sort of fell into payments. I wasn't, looking for this hot industry to go into, and I found payments. It just didn't happen that way. And I don't think it did to a lot of people back when I started in it 15 years ago. But in the last 4 or 5 years, you have colleges now that have fintech courses, and a lot of money has been invested in this industry. And it's kind of a hot industry right now. So I think you have women coming out of college who are entering the industry. What would your advice be to them?
So first off, to your point, there is a lot more access to this information coming out of college and even courses that you can take online, right? Even if you're in a different industry and you want to learn about payments, I think the access to that information and learning is much more broad. And so whether you're coming out of college or you're seeking, people want to think about a job career switch to payments, which is an amazing and exciting industry, grabbing a mentor, in this space industry, the relationships are super important because so much of what we do crosses paths for all different types of partnerships and product capabilities. So one, grabbing a mentor, build the relationship and partnership skills. Also, there are many industry organizations that are out there, both local and national and international. And I have found extreme value in those organizations because one, it's a place that you can learn a lot in a short time, but it's also a place that you can network with individuals. And again, we're in a place right now where in-person isn't happening, but there are certainly these things happening virtually. And although virtually may seem harder, and it is, there is still an aspect of it that makes it more accessible because you don't have to travel right now to get access to some of this information, to some of these individuals and these people that are part of these associations and organizations. So again, mentor and joining the organizations, as well as being a part of the many publications that are out there. Just like, as I said before, this industry is moving so fast. Technology is changing so quickly. So being a part of the stream of information and staying connected to who's in the industry, what are the firms coming in, and connecting with individuals on LinkedIn. All great things that you can do to help support the growth.
Great. So let's wrap up with one final question. If you would, talk about what JPMorgan Chase is doing to help foster an environment where women can bring their full selves to work and be successful.
So one of the areas where I am most proud to work for JPMorgan Chase is in the efforts that we have around diversity and inclusion. And more specifically, you asked about women. So I'll comment on something that started as a bit of, I don't want to call it grassroots, but 4 of our senior leaders literally wanting to just get around and have conversations with other women across the country. And it became branded as Women on the Move. And you can actually find more information about this. It is on the JPMorgan Chase website. But Women on the Move is essentially I don't even call it an initiative, but it's a living, breathing part ecosystem that we have at JPMorgan Chase to show the commitment to provide women with the opportunities to succeed, both in their professional and personal lives. And there are 3 key areas of focus that we have really poured our energy into most recently. And that is 1, expanding women-run businesses. We talk about the importance of small businesses. So enabling women to grow their businesses, whether startups to global enterprises. And in doing that through whether it's access to capital, networking, expertise, and just the other breadth of resources that we have across the firm. The second area is improving women's financial health. So how do we provide education and tools to increase the financial health and the independence of women in our communities? And by doing this, by increasing their financial acumen, we can help aim women to feel more confident about their financial futures, and that confidence turning into more success. And then third is empower women's career growth. So how do we support female employees across all levels, all regions, all lines of business and departments by providing an inclusive culture, coaching, leadership training, growth opportunities, and also family-friendly policies and benefits to enable our women to be successful both professionally and personally. And the ultimate goal there is to propel more women into leadership positions across the firm. And I think if you take a look at the leaders at JPMorgan Chase, it's pretty impressive to see the number of women that we have in the most senior leadership positions. And it's truly proud to be a part of a company that is so committed to not only beginning these journeys well ahead of when it might have been obvious to do so, but to continuing to power them. And now we've doing the same across not just women, but our advancing Black pathways and all the other programs that we have to make sure that we are creating a diverse and inclusive culture and creating an environment where people from all walks of life can succeed and grow and see themselves in a leadership position if that's where they aspire to be.
Sure. So we've covered a lot of ground here about your background, your personal journey, the payments industry, and JPMorgan Chase. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover or say before we completely wrap up?
I just wanted to say, Greg, first, thank you to you for doing this. I think these podcasts and opportunities to listen to others, I've listened to many of the other ones that you've already recorded, are a great way for individuals to learn from others, experience others. And I love the approach because you can also do it on the go. So whether you're on your walk, whether in the past you were on an airplane or what have you, I think this is truly a testament to the platform, not only that you've created, but that is available to all women and to everyone in payments and beyond to be able to continue to learn from others, which is one of the best ways that you can gain insights on how to build your own toolkit, to build your own brand so that you can propel your career in the direction that you want to.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being on the show today. I know your time is very valuable, so I want to be sensitive to that, but I really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Greg.
And to all you listeners out there, I thank you for your time as well. And until the next story.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Leaders in Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at leadersinpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you'll find our show notes. If you enjoyed listening, please share on your social channels as well.